안녕하세요. I'm back. Is this even? Hold on. I think I need to fix this camera a little bit. There we go. It's been a while. It's been a couple of weeks. So, a lot of stuff to get caught up on. I'm almost, back to normal, almost like 100% better. I still have a little bit of congestion and stuff that's going on, but overall, compared to how I was a couple weeks ago, like I said, almost just completely back to normal. Now, before I get into the video, I just wanted to highlight this twice announced part 3 of the Fifth World Tour. Now, I also kind of, at least semi sort of predicted this, maybe going back when the tour was announced. By the time we knew what part 1 and part 2 was going to be, I think once all of the scheduling for that was officially posted, there was a I noticed, I observed it very clearly on Twitter and on all the social media platforms. There was a very large outcry from the sort of Latin American regions, right? Or like these countries, Mexico City, which they had twice had performed before. I think it was the third tour, maybe. And also from Brazil, just a lot of fans, right, were like, hey, what about these countries, And I said it makes, in terms of marketing, in terms of like having a successful tour, right, you don't want to skip out on the region, especially since they have played before in Mexico and countries like this. So I said I wouldn't be surprised, we get part 1 and part 2. Now, at the time, I wasn't aware really of I think the Misamo release, the Jihyo solo release. These things hadn't really been announced yet, you know what I mean? But so before that, you have to kind of imagine or remember, okay, so we knew there was going to be part 1 and part 2, and then they're going to sort of take a break. So this is what I said. I said maybe they'll do the second part of the tour. They'll go back to Korea, and everybody will take a break. They'll take a couple weeks off or whatever, and then maybe they'll jump back into it, come back, and then start, going through some rehearsals. Just you want to make sure that you go over your choreography and your parts and everything like that so that you're ready to go for the show. It's not that they need a whole lot of time for that either, because they're so good and the tour's been so substantial so far, so it's kind of like they probably can do this stuff in their sleep at this point, is what I think. So you come back maybe last week of October, and then say okay, do a couple of run-throughs, and it's like, okay, we'll be back November 4th, it looks like. And it's surprising that they're going to go back to Melbourne. Didn't they I know they went to, didn't they play Melbourne, I think, or Sydney? No, it was Sydney, wasn't it? Okay, so but they're going to start, go back to Australia, and then take off from there. So but that's really cool. That's a cool thing, man. I think that's pretty awesome. And I did feel pretty confident that something like that would end up being the case, you know what I mean? Because it just makes too much sense. Because they have such a big fan following already within the regions, and all the shows were selling. They were adding dates and all of this. So I was like, oh, dude, well, you're not gonna lose. You know what I'm saying? You've already sold so many tickets and done so well. So you might as well. You know what I mean? Okay, so obviously, first return here, and I gotta do "Killin Me Good" by Jihyo. So here we go.
잘 도착했어? 나 TV 보고 있었어. Yeah. Yeah. Something that I can't deny. 처음이 봤던 그 순간 몸이 낚이는 뭔가. Something that I can't explain. 하지만 너무 특별해. 듣고 그대로 따라갈래 I'm losing all my senses You're taking me to places And you know that I can say yes Killing me good Feeling things I never knew that I could 네가 만들어주는 되게 good 10초마다 생각이 나내 모습에 내가 놀라 You're killing me good You're making me feel something new Hey You're making me feel so brand new 너보다 날 더 잘 아는 거야 Oh you keep on making me say Oh my Don't stop 두 단어만 끝없이 내 귀에 속삭이지 Take me so high 나에게 널 맡길 시간 이제 널 위해 준비한 날 보여줄게 너에게만 I'll let you lose your senses And make you go to places Then I know all that you can say yes You're killing me good Feeling things I never knew that I could 네가 만들어주는 되게 good 10초마다 생각이 나내 모습에 내가 놀라 You're killing me good You're making me feel something new Hey You're making me feel so brand new 날 솔직하게 해 모두 표현하게 돼 그래서 또 내 입에서 나오는 너 위험하게 달콤해 그래서 난 계속 원해 I just can't help what you say Killing me good Feeling things I never knew that I could 네가 만들어주는 되게 good 10초마다 생각이 나내 모습에 내가 놀라 You're killing me good You're making me feel something new Hey You're making me feel so brand new You're making me feel something new Hey You're making me feel so brand new You're killing me good
Ah, she did it. Jihyo did it, man. Ah, so crazy. So crazy. I can remember, I guess, sort of the lead up to, her solo dropping, and there was a lot of things that she would talk about on Bubble, saying, it's very challenging and it's very difficult to do a solo project. And I guess when you've been in a group like Twice for so long, that could be something that, because there's no distribution of the parts, it's all you, right? It's like a 3.5 minute song, roughly, between all the different members, and it's like, okay, you can the choreography is probably the most challenging thing, aside from some of the vocal aspects. But when it's all you, it's like, wow. On the one hand, you have so much more space, so much more time, but what can you do with it, And for somebody like Jihyo, I have no doubt that she really pushed herself, I'm also remembering some of the things that were posted before the little teaser videos that were actually just little clips of the Pro Tools session, and so the drum track, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I remember hearing this, and then later on when more of the mix was added in, like the bass and some of the rhythm parts and more of the percussion, and it's like that was very exciting. That was so cool because that's what it really looks like. That's what it's really like when you're sort of working on this type of producing music and everything. You see that workflow. You see the tracks, arranged that way, and man, it was just really cool. There's so many things about it, but I have no doubt that she really pushed herself you know, with everything. You know, she going all the way back to like the 16 series, when the group had decided that Jihyo was the one person who best sort of like embodied the whole JYP value system, right? The one who really, and it's no surprise because she spent all that time as a trainee, so she's like absorbed all of that. And I think that what this really shows is the end result of that, right? Like this process of not only having been a trainee for so long, but also being the leader of TWICE for, you know, the whole first contract, this whole like 7 years with the group. I feels like to me she's been always practicing and always learning and always trying to improve, always trying, like she hasn't stopped all the way back to when she started as a trainee until now. For her, it's like, okay, we did the thing, we did the recording, the video, the tour, whatever, we did that. Okay, now I need to go back to, you know, the drawing board. I need to like figure out what it is I can do better. Where can I improve? What can I do different next time? Like, she's this type of industrious artist, you know what I mean? And this is what you get when you have all of those qualities. So there's something that's kind of almost like a throwback feeling in this song. It has a very like maybe mid-90s type of vibe, mostly because of the bass, right? This sort of synth bass. It's an awesome bass sound, right? Like it's huge, and it's got such it's got like a little bit of distortion on it. So not only is it like buzzy sort of synth bass, but there's a little bit of a rattle on it too, right? Because it's like, it's just so big. It's like really, really strong. I feel like the gain on it is like way up. And then there's also a little bit of distortion added to the signal. And so it makes this very buzzy, rattly type of intensity to it. The percussion, the main percussive groove is, of course, very snappy, right? It's a very nice, like very clean, almost a slightly brittle sounding snare hit that accents 2 and 4, and you get a little bit of an eighth note before the 4, right? So it's a very shuffly type of dance rhythm that's going on. Of course, her vocals are so good, right? Like, it's just, she's at this point, you know, for TWICE fans and everything, it's just a treat, right? Whenever you get to hear Jihyo's vocals, she's one of the strongest singers, I think, like ever, like overall. Has an incredibly strong voice. It's a very nice peak in the song once we get to that sort of bridge section or breakdown section, right? She has a nice build up to a very strong high note. I think I was surprised that it didn't actually go a little bit higher or perhaps be a little bit stronger than that, but that's just, you know, a little bit of a bias. It's a little bit of being spoiled, I think, by Jihyo and TWICE over the years, or over the duration of being a fan and everything, you know, over the work, like the discography, I guess I should say. But let's see.
잘 도착했어?
She looks incredible.
TV 보고 있었어.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like we're in 4 automatically, and you can hear the 1 and 4, 1, 2 and 4, right? And I'm fairly certain that's the 8th note subdivision, right? So the snare hits coming in on the end of 4. I feel like it's laying back on the beat on 4 a little bit, because there's a slight exaggeration of the space in between. I don't believe it's a 16 note.
Something that I can't deny. 처음 해봤던 그 순간.
No, it's a.
몸이 낚이는 뭔가. Something that I can't explain. 하지만 너무 특별해. 눈을 감고서 집중해.
So you hear the main chord progression really outlined in the sort of keyboard part. There's a synth keyboard. That's your main chord progression right there. Of course, the bass is going to be hanging around the root position of each chord. But it'll be interesting. I gotta figure out what that chord progression is, just to see what it's in a minor key. But just to know what it is, or how we approach the 1, the 5, and things like that. It sounds that too, in addition to the sort of bass sound, but also this chord progression as well. These things give it that throwback type of vibe. Like, it really reminds me of something. It reminds me of something from the 90s, but it isn't like a 90s song. It isn't like it's done in that style or anything. This is very much like original. This is like straight out of Jihyo's mind. Man, she's really good. Cool drum fill. And that drum fill, the sort of compression was ramped up a little bit, so it sounds a little bit canned, right? Listen to the bass, it's killer.
I'm losing all my senses. You're taking me to places, and you know.
Right at the beginning of that second phrase, right, there was I believe it was the kick, had a ton of reverb on it, and like the way it was EQ'd, so it almost sounded like a muted explosion, kind of boom, like it sort of resonated a little bit, and it's pocketed really nicely with the bass line that's going on too. So that was really cool. That was like a very contained type of explosion sound.
All that I can say is killing me good. Feel the things I never knew that I could. 네가 만들어주는 되게 good. 10초마다 생각이 나. 내 모습에 내가 놀라. You're killing me good.
So actually really nice rhythms, the patterns here, as far as the chorus section, right? It's actually a lot of 16th note emphasis once we get to this, especially da 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 da. That's when we get to a lot of our 1 and 2 and type of feels, right? But it's a little bit more spread out in the beginning, right? Staying a little bit closer to quarters and 8th notes. And as the line progresses, it gets a little bit more complicated, right? But then it always sort of gets kind of roped back in. So it's a little bit of an expanding and contracting sort of feel that's created by the rhythmic patterns in the chorus lines.
You're making me feel something new.
Compression on the vocals.
You're making me feel so brand new. 너보다 날 더 잘하는 거야. Oh, you.
So something was very cool there. The footage, the image, right? The visual was the phone, and there was that bit of audio compression that was added to the vocal line at the opening of this verse section. Made those first 2 lines sound as if they were, like she's on the phone talking. You know what I mean? And then after that, no compression whatsoever, and that was a beautiful line that she da 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 da. That was. It's so clean. It sounds so good. Because she's so strong. Like she's using all chest voice there, right? This is something that JYP has definitely spoken about before. going up to hit a higher note, but not moving up into head voice, like keeping it all here. You could really hear the strong resonance in the vocals at that line right there. So it's a fantastic line right there.
Oh, you keep on making me say, oh my, don't stop.
Again, phrasing.
Take me so high.
So she used that same sort of line structure there, right? Twice, 2 times, in other words, a pair of what ends up being the overall phrasing. It's just very. Oh, this album is going to. It's going to really explain and demonstrate a lot of Jihyo as a composer and songwriter. And I mean naturally, but it's just cool, you know. It's like it's just cool to see it, and it's not as if this is like the first time that she's written songs or anything. But again, having that freedom, having the space now and the time, and deciding what it is that you want to do with it completely from start to finish. She's incredibly original. Like she has her own thing to do, you know, and it's very, very cool. Oh, again, that massive sound.
I'll let you lose your senses and make you go to places. Then I know all that you can say. Yes, you're killing me good.
Excellent drum fills, right? Going into that pre-chorus section, the mix, you know, it does shift to a little bit more of a sparse type of consistency, right? Is mainly you get, I heard that loud, sort of muted explosion sound too. At 2 instances there, both of the sections of that phrase, or both phrases, I guess, in that section. The emphasis is going to be on the vocal line, and then most of your rhythm gets replaced with a sort of ambient, sort of sparkling type of synth sound. It's not quite airy, but maybe a little dreamy, I think, you know. The vocal's too strong. Everything in the mix is also, it's still quite substantial, so I wouldn't call it quite an airiness, but there is a little bit more of a expression of space that's going on, and I think it's I think something like a sort of dreaminess is a better type of description. So interesting on this bridge section, all of a sudden chord qualities seem to take on a much more major sounding, they're much more major sounding, right? So I think we might have a little bit of a key change going on here. There was also some very chromatic sounding tones in there, so maybe like a 7th chord coming in, maybe like a 5/7 or something, was fairly strong. It's quite colorful, like very blues sounding. It's a little bit darker in the rest of the song. Just it has a bit more of a noir type of feel to it. Tonally speaking, it's a little bit darker, right? But the shift here, the key change here, we haven't departed too much in terms of time or rhythm, really. Perhaps some longer sustained chords that are going on for sure. I said maybe I think whole notes, maybe half notes, but it creates this much more flowy, almost softer type of a feel to it. But mostly it's a change in chord quality that really makes this, gives this section its strong contrast. But it's fantastic. Really good writing.
Killing me good. Yeah, yeah. Feel the things I never knew that I could. 네가 만들어주는 네게 심청마다 생각이 나. 내 모습에 내가 놀라.
I'm curious as to how the doubling was handled on the vocals, and also some of the ad libs. You know, even on Twice's album tracks, you know, they've had like of course they do recording of most of the vocal lines, but there are times when other sort of backing vocalists have been brought in to do certain parts. It's not like a super common thing, but it does happen. So for this, you know, I'm wondering if Jihyo has actual backing vocals, because to me it kind of sounds like there are a couple of other voices at play, especially at this point in the song. Some of these lines are doubled, so you have two voices singing the same line. Then you also have those sort of ad-lib type of phrases that are going on too. There's sort of other vocal lines that are going on and maybe doing their own thing, or finding a different sort of rhythm or melody pattern within this sort of chorus progression that's going on here. But it's very cool. There's something. It just has this very cool, sleek, you know, type of feel to it that has this sort of classic quality to it, but also being very original. And I guess that's kind of like, that kind of is Jihyo, right? Like, she's a classic. She's completely original and unique, but at the same time, or it's like she's so good, you know, that she's a classic.
Killing me good. You're making me feel something new. Hey, you're making me feel so brand new. You're making me feel something new. Hey, you're making me feel so brand new. You're killing me good.
It's one of those she was insane for that moments. What did this say? Seriously, what have I done to deserve this? Pick up the phone. Hey, you're being selfish. Oh, you're making me upset. We're done. What? So kind of, okay. So it's a story arc then. She's like, she meets somebody, then she kind of feels like she's in love. She's going through all this sort of like the throes of, you know, being in that type of a situation. Where the heck is this? Hey, tomorrow, cool, good night, make me feel something new. Love you, bae. And then it's quite different by the end of the video. So, okay, so I mean, again, sort of a classic concept. I mean, it's a love song, you know. It's not an ideal love, but it does describe the sort of range of like feelings and things that are associated with it, the experience, you know. That's interesting, man. That's interesting. It's definitely you know, I can't wait to check out the full album, of course. That's sort of coming up. It's just, you know, because I want to listen to it. I have to add it to the regular rotation, you know, like the all the stuff that I get to listen to all the time. So I can't wait to get into the album review for sure. It's like I said, she just has her own style and her own sound and her own vibe and her own way of doing things. But she's so developed as an artist, as a songwriter and a composer and a vocalist, and all of these different things, right? She's become so proficient at it that, you know, it's she has created what is going to be considered classic, you know, like just we try to imagine like 20 years from now or whatever, and people will still be enjoying pretty much all of Twice and, you know, all of Jihyo's music and Misamo and all of this. It's the creation of like that new sort of just classic sound. But it's really nice, man. It's really cool. It's really cool. It's just really cool to see her actually, you know, do it. She actually did it, man. She actually did it. She did the solo thing, and I never had any doubt, you know, like I knew it was always going to be incredible and a success, and I think it's I don't know. I did see something, you know, I have to check for it again because I don't think I got a chance to watch it, but it was Jihyo apparently talking about maybe her future prospectively as like a solo artist. I don't know. I like. This is one of those things for knowing what I know about Jihyo and about Twice and all this. This solo work is like a thing that needed to happen. You know what I mean? Like there's a point, and this was probably for a long time now, where Jihyo just, you know, she was like, I got this. I had these ideas, and I got this thing, and I want to put it down. Like I want to, you know, actually do this, and she wasn't going to like cut corners anywhere, or, you know what I mean, try to take shortcuts or whatever. I think that's why it was such a process of making it happen. So I think ultimately it's going to have a lot to do with timing, because at this point, having produced the album, it's going to be a feeling of like, okay, that thing that I wanted to say, that thing that I had that I wanted to sort of express, I did it. So there will have to be almost like a cycle again of like time that passes, ideas and experiences that are had, and then, you know, those are the sort of precipitate of like what the next album content would be. And if she's able to reach a point where she still feels like, okay, I can handle that, I can manage that type of undertaking again, and all the work that comes along with it, and it's sort of the value of what it is that I want to express meets or exceeds that in terms of like what the investment was going to be in terms of time, in terms of work, in terms of all of these things. But, you know, I don't doubt that she could do it, just like I had no doubt that she could do this. But will she reach a point where she says, okay, that's definitely something that I got to do again? I don't know. It's interesting though. But she did a fantastic job on everything with this. You know, I've been seeing I've been seeing the dance challenge everywhere. It's kind of sucks because I was like not playing the video, so I wouldn't hear it, you know, and I would kind of just let the auto play on my phone, you know, so I could see her doing it, but it was like I couldn't hear the sounds of it or whatever. And so but you know, everybody's been on this dance challenge. It's been very cool because you also have like Somi coming out with things, Stacy, all these groups that are releasing their songs now, and I'm actually seeing, you know, Jihyo do their dance challenge, and then they do the Killin Me Good challenge with Jihyo. So everybody's just sort of like really sharing all of this time together and everything, and it's made for some very cool stuff. Jihyo's win on the music show recently, you know, when she won, and ITZY was there. I think Stacy was there also, right? And he had that moment at the conclusion when they announced what the winner was Jihyo, and you know she turns around and Yeji and Ryujin are right there, right? I think Leah's behind her too, and you just get to see these moments, you know, where Ryujin was like very taken aback or getting emotional by, you know, because she won, because she was there, she saw Jihyo win, and you know they're like the big sister group for ITZY, so you know, in that moment she was very happy for Jihyo's success and for her win and everything. And so there's just a lot of cool stuff, man. There's a lot of cool stuff, man. What a time for me to get sick with this, you know what I mean? Like it just derailed everything. I haven't, you know, I've been in the loop, I just haven't been able to dive into it yet. So that's going to be basically the thing for now. So we got to get caught up on some things, and I had to start with Jihyo. I had to start with Killin Me Good, because this is like I was literally leading up to this. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I was like, oh, Jihyo's, it's gonna drop next week. It's gonna, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, I just got sort of blindsided by something, and it was like, But of course, you know, I knew it would still be here in the meantime, and it's so good to be back and to hear and see Jihyo's music video as well. Okay, so I'm gonna go try and get caught up on some more stuff, and the album review for this is coming very, very soon. I'm definitely gonna try and do it like this week, for sure. But Jihyo, Killin Me Good, what a fantastic solo debut and outing for undertaking for her as an artist. There's just so much, you know. I have a lot of appreciation for it naturally, you know, and I think it's just very cool. It's very cool. I wasn't on board with everything for when Nayeon released her solo album, another one that I have to listen to, but it's been cool to be here for like the Misamo debut, and then also Jihyo's solo debut. It's been really, really cool, man. It's just to see it happen, you know. Just understanding how everything started and the background, and then, you know, getting to this point. So it's just an incredibly cool thing to see, man. That's really, really awesome. Killin Me Good. It's like I said, she's the new classic, dude. This is just the thing. I think she was always destined to be this. There's just something about it. It's just written in the stars. You know what I mean? It's just, it couldn't be anybody else, and it couldn't happen any other way. It's got to be Jihyo. She is amazing.